tax us, we tax them the same amount. They tax us, forgetting just for a second about the word tariff. They tax us, we tax them. And they tax us, almost in all cases, they're taxing us, and we haven't been taxing them.
Forgetting for a second about the word tariff, well, once you forget about the word tariff, the word you're actually talking about, then you can say anything. Then suddenly the word tariff becomes the word tax, which actually is fair enough, because as economists and the founding fathers could have told you, a tariff is, in effect, a tax. It's a sales tax on foreign goods imported into this country.
I truly feel Lawrence's frustration. Why hasn't the media continued to ask that simple question to Donald Trump? What is a tariff? In keeping with being exactly who he is, Donald is continuing his pattern of lying about his non-existent accomplishments while touting successful policies he has nothing to do with or actively opposed. Most recently, he's taking credit for projects funded by President Biden's 2021 Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, a law that Donald actively fought hard to kill. The New York Times' Richard Fawcett reports that across the country, signs are appearing next to newly built bridges, tunnels, and rail yards, reading, quote, "Donald, rebuilding America's infrastructure," unquote. Well, that's problematic, isn't it? Because the projects were all paid for by the bipartisan, well, mostly Democratic, $1.2 trillion legislation put in place by President Biden. Not only did Donald have nothing to do with helping pass this bill, he vehemently opposed it, calling it, quote, "a loser for the USA," unquote. I guess it takes one to know one. Although in this case, he was wrong because the only loser in this scenario is him. He also warned that Republicans who voted for the package would be primaried out of office, adding, quote, "Patriots will never forget," unquote. Well, I guess he will because he's not a patriot. An Amtrak spokesman said the signs, quote, "are a voluntary Amtrak initiative updating outdated signage posted at the project locations listed previously following the change in presidential administrations earlier this year," unquote. In other words, Amtrak, like so many other institutions and agencies and corporations, is bending the knee to Donald in the hopes that he won't pull the plug on the Biden-provided funding, which Amtrak desperately needs. Once again, we see that a guy who has styled himself falsely as a master builder is only a con man and a fraud who only seems successful because he's constantly taking credit for other people's work. By the way, one project mentioned in this Times piece, the rebuilding of the Connecticut River Bridge, is on track to create roughly 300 jobs. Donald had nothing to do with that either, despite all of his talk about bringing manufacturing jobs back to America. In fact, his insane, unilateral, unprovoked tariffs have made it almost impossible to bring manufacturing jobs back to this country, in part because the tariffs are making manufacturing in America much more expensive than it would otherwise be. But before we go on, we have to pull out all the stops in combating the misinformation, disinformation, and propaganda coming out of the Trump regime. So please like and share this video. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel if you support our mission. When it comes to taking credit for Biden's work, Donald just keeps lying. Last month, while announcing a useless federal takeover of Washington, D.C.'s Union Station, the benighted Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy gave a speech touting a new set of state-of-the-art Amtrak Acela trains. Naturally, Duffy, one of the sycophantiest of the sycophants, laid it on thick, complimenting his dear leader's incredible work improving the lives of American commuters. He must have been talking about Joe Biden, right? No, not so much. Take a look at this lickspittles press conference.
Again, I think the president has been pretty clear on what he wants for a Union Station, for American travel, for train travel. He wants Union Station to be beautiful again. He wants transit to be safe again, and he wants our nation's capital to be great again. And today is part of that. Listen, I've had the opportunity, like many of you multiple times, to ride the old Acela again, and I think we would all agree it was showing its age. And if you've taken a tour of the new trains, they're beautiful. They're going to be faster. We're going to have not 15 trains, we're going to have 28 trains. So we're going to be able to carry more people on these trains, which I hopefully means better pricing. It's going to mean better revenue, but most importantly, a better experience for the traveling public.
Speaking of showing his age, my apologies, that's low-hanging fruit. Let's be clear here. None of this has anything to do with what Donald accomplished, because he didn't accomplish anything. All of the money going to improve Amtrak and the Acela trains is coming from President Biden's bill that passed back in 2021. According to the Daily Beast, Ewan Palmer, these Acela trains, quote, were first ordered under President Barack Obama in 2016 and will benefit from infrastructure investments made as part of President Biden's bipartisan infrastructure act, unquote. You know that you must be desperate if your only way of propping yourself up is to lie that somebody else's very real and significant accomplishments are yours. It won't surprise you to know that we have yet more lying. Earlier this summer, the White House posted a link to a website called The Trump Effect, ostensibly meant to track new economic investments made in the United States under Donald's so-called leadership. But like any list of accomplishments supplied by Donald, it's filled with blatant lies. How many times are we going to say the same word lies in one video? Well, many, because that is how many times Donald is lying about things that he has never actually done, including, for example, being a successful businessman. But that is a story for another time. According to a Reuters review of the website reported by Jarrett Renshaw, quote, just under half of the claimed spending on the website, totaling more than $1.3 trillion, originated under former President Joe Biden or represented routine spending repackaged to promote domestic investments. Two of the Trump Effect projects were aided by Biden's legislated efforts to boost domestic manufacturing, unquote. Yes, President Biden passed laws meant to bolster manufacturing jobs in the United States. Meanwhile, the Associated Press just reported that thanks to Donald's tariffs, 12,000 American factory jobs were lost last month, and 38,000 manufacturing jobs have been lost in the United States so far this year. That is the opposite of accomplishment. That is abject failure. And hopefully, people will start recognizing who is to blame for the horrific economic catastrophe we're about to head into. Late last year, MSNBC's Lawrence O'Donnell provided an insightful analysis of the ways Donald takes credit for the previous administration's work, while the mainstream media allow him to lie with impunity about his policies. Take a look.
Starting next month, Donald Trump will no doubt be taking credit for every factory opening created by the Biden Chips and Science Act. Every one of those factory jobs making computer chips in the United States that will be created in the next 4 years will be thanks to Joe Biden's Chips and Science Act. Once again today, Donald Trump lied about tariffs, as he has every time he has ever said the word tariff publicly. And once again, no reporter's question was able to penetrate Donald Trump's lies about tariffs. Here's an example of the gibberish that Donald Trump gets away with reporters when he just decides to lie about tariffs.
If they tax us, we tax them the same amount. They tax us, forgetting just for a second about the word tariff, they tax us, we tax them. And they tax us, almost in all cases, they're taxing us, and we haven't been taxing them.
Forgetting for a second about the word tariff, well, once you forget about the word tariff, the word you're actually talking about, then you can say anything. Then suddenly the word tariff becomes the word tax, which actually is fair enough, because as economists and the founding fathers could have told you, a tariff is in effect a tax. It's a sales tax on foreign goods imported into this country. It is a sales tax paid by us, paid by Americans who buy foreign goods. And Donald Trump tells the lie that the tariffs he imposes are taxes that he imposes on China.
I truly feel Lawrence's frustration. Why hasn't the media continued to ask that simple question to Donald Trump? What is a tariff? Please, just define a tariff for us. And no, you cannot do that if you tell us that we're going to forget about the word tariff. I guess Republicans are on a tear. They just want to remove words from the English language of which they do not approve or that they cannot define. Because by the same token, why has not any member of the media asked Republican members of Congress what Leninism is, or what Marxism is, or what communism is, considering they throw those terms around with abandon when trying to take down their perceived political enemies, which is to say, Democrats. Now, don't get me wrong. The media can ask all day long what a tariff is to Donald Trump, and he will not answer that question. But the American people deserve to know just what kind of contortions he is going to twist himself into to avoid answering a very simple question he should know the answer to. Instead, either by not asking the question or by trying to make his answers seem sensical, they are sane-washing a man who is a complete and utter moron. Please take a second and like and share this video. It'd be awesome if you could subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, please follow us and give the show a 5-star rating because it really does help other people find our content. Thanks.